Okay, we're going to try something a little different today. I'm going to turn the camera around so you're not looking at my big head and see if I can show you some of the structures of the ecosystem and what we're dealing with and how we work with it. Let's give this a shot. Okay, so here we are at the ground cover layer, and it's interesting. We've got some clover. I've been led to believe these are nitrogen fixing plants, but we also have this vine, which has very sticky leaves. They call it amor seco here, and this likes to run along the ground. We also have this guy. They call it like oreja de burro. Okay. This guy here. And it forms a really nice ground cover, especially in semi-shady areas. And we also have this kind of weird grass. I don't even know what this is. And so we can back out of this area, and we can see how it ends up after I kind of machete it a little bit. The oreja de burro, sometimes I leave them a little long. And pile up that biomass down in our biomass contours. You can also see, here's an example of one of these amor secos. They also like to try to climb up if they can, but they'll run across the ground. Here's a Mexican needle, chipaca. Chipaca, that's good for rabbits and chickens. You can also see in various places we've been using these iris type plants. These they call them orquídeas de tierra. They fill in, and I can show you here's some more biomass. I've been pruning this out. These iris really fill in a space, and some other plants can still live, but a lot of habitat in here for lizards and geckos, and they form kind of a really nice barrier. They're easy to cut, they're easy to pull out, and they'll really fill a space nice. And so we have the yellow ones, and we also have some purple ones that we like. Now we're getting down in here. In this area we call Tangara Uno, Tangara 1. And this is leading up from the flat spot down to the first contour. You can see it here. Here we have a lemongrass crop with this perennial mint, Pronto Alivio. Gives some really nice flowers for local pollinators. A little bit of manioc here. And along this contour, this biomass contour, which cuts into the forest there, we've planted squash. We've also got this bore. And somebody mentioned that it kind of does look like taro root or pipa, which provide like a root crop. But this one doesn't actually have a root crop. It is completely different. It stores all the carbohydrates in its trunks. You can see here these big trunks. They never expire. They just keep growing and growing. And one day when you're really hungry, or you got a pig that's hungry, you knock it down and chop it up, and all of that is carbohydrates there. And so we've planted that all along this contour. It likes the kind of semi-wet, humid space. We have done some scratching up here and putting on top. All this biomass that we prune out and fill these contours up, it keeps a layer. But when you're first starting, it can be helpful. You'll actually, if you scoop a little bit out here and put it on top, you'll actually lock more material, not as much will off-gas. And we've had some success with the bananas and the plantains, but we're actually going to be moving them out. So as we expand kind of this path here, we're going to be moving the plantains out. This is a little tricky, and the rot in here is not affecting all of them, but I think they're going to do better here. And you can kind of see this lot. We planted more lemongrass. We're expanding the lemongrass. And we also have this arasa fruit. We've got every 3 meters an arasa plant, which is a family of the guava. Here's another interesting thing. Now, I've spent some time pruning these nazarenos. And eventually they're getting really high. eventually I will have to pollard them at some level, but in the meantime other trees are growing out. And one interesting thing I mentioned in another video, these contours, it's really cool. They trap any fruit that rolls down the hill, which is a problem for people who grow fruit. They'll trap them, and you know the dogs really like the stray avocados, the ones that fall to the ground, and the seeds somehow end up rolling. We got these dogs are mammals, part of the ecosystem, and they have a tendency to plant these avocado trees right where they stop rolling. And so we've got a number of, here's another avocado tree in here. In the contour, another avocado tree. My goodness. And so we've got some other trees coming out. There's a Madre Agua, a Nacedero. And we're cultivating. We also planted along this space more bore and squash seeds. We just got some perfect rains last night and the night before. See all this biomass really piling up, and it's everywhere. Oh, it's everywhere. It's so much biomass. And that's really what we want to talk about, these ecosystems. When you get started, it's really tempting to plant a bunch of stuff. And, you know, if you're trying to live by farming, that can be a good idea, maybe. I found that farming is tricky, and we wanted to get our soil, our ecosystem kind of understood first. You can see now these first two contours, this is Tangara 2 now, Tangara 2. This is the shortest intercontour planting. So we have this bund really close to this one. The ones further down are wider, and I think I like them a little wider, but this just happened to work out really perfectly. And so we got this little shorty here. And probably still too many trees in there, but we've got the axe handle tree, the caballeacha, and some of this nacereno, which again, it's starting. Now this wall here, let me go down. I worked this out yesterday, and the day before was clean out. Here's some more lemongrass crops, and you could see this wall. It's got the contour build up, but it was actually pollarded or coppiced, high coppiced, 6 or maybe 7 months ago. And so it had really sprouted out along the bottom a lot, so I cleaned all that out, and you could still see some of the results there. And I cleaned out a lot of other things, making room for the lemongrass. If you're going to be cropping, you're not going to want as much native plant and bush species buildup, but we still have some of this chilco rojo. I cleaned out a lot of it, but there's one next to the manioc, and there's some down there. Here, I'll show you these beautiful red chilco flowers. This is again the second contour here. This part's a little newer, above our lookout deck there. This is the chilco rojo. Man, and it really shows up everywhere, so I don't feel too bad when I chop it down, but I like to leave some around because of this. These, can you see that bee there? Where are you, bee? Hey, buddy. These local pollinators love this stuff. And obviously they're going to be trying to help pollinate other things, but this has really helped us attract some local pollinators. And here you can see how close that first and the second contour is. But it ended up perfect, right above our deck. One thing I haven't talked about on the contours is doors. How are you going to move up and down your slopes without doors? And so when we got into this farm, this was the main path, and it went all the way down the edge, the filo, all the way down in a straight line, and it also became quite slippery when it rained. And so what we did is we've kind of made it a little more labyrinthian. We've closed this section and we've added a deck here. The path then goes around on contour to this door. Right now I say door even though I pruned this niguito. and so cut him out. We have this issue too. Here you can see a little bit better how these nazarenos, they try to come in and out. And so it's a continuous pruning, but that really activates a lot of biomass and a lot in the ecosystem. But here these niguitos, and with the nazareno, and there's another avocado in the back, they're starting to shade out this feijoa, and the feijoa is just a delicious type of guava. And so what we're going to be hopefully be doing soon is taking advantage that just the last bit of flowering on this feijoa is passing, and we're gonna cut it up. We are going to make cuttings out of all of this, prune it back pretty drastically, take advantage to prune the contour as well, maybe a little bit of this avocado. And oh, here's another Chilco Rojo. So this is a short-lived pioneer bush. You know, it can live 18 months, 2 years. Generally, now this flowered, this will die off, but one of these will become a leader, or a new leader will come out of the bottom. And so they put out these beautiful flowers, which attract all sorts of beneficial insects. And here we've got, this is another thing I wanted to share with you all. So this nazareno could have been compassed and pruned more, but actually what it's doing together with the guava tree is they are providing some sort of protection for our Andean walnut, which is going to try to split the difference. He's going to go up and burst through, and so he's going to be a little bit happier. If he didn't have any competition, we have some dwarf Andean walnuts that go up about 12 to 15 feet and think they're the king of the mountain. And we've got some in the forest that really go up and penetrate. They're 40, 50 feet tall, and now they're thickening up. And here's another one. I love this verbena. This is, we call it escobo here. Yeah, a lot of people hate the escobo, so this is an interesting communication activity. The escobo is called broomstick because people use it. They'll come and they'll prune this, and they'll clump them all together, and they'll make a broom with it. This is the household brooms. They've got these flower braids here, which they flower. They flower for a really long time. You see, none of them have very many flowers, but they've got the whole stem, and so they flower for a very continuous period. Another thing to bring the beneficial insects in. It's so innocuous. I don't understand exactly why people hate it. I tell them to leave the bushes, and sometimes they'll say, yeah, okay, and then they'll pull this guy out by the roots. Oh, I got that darn escobo. Like he's a bad guy, but I think it brings a lot of butterflies, and we love this verbena. Beautiful little tiny purple flower. And yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to keep pruning along this inside edge. And we continue. I should have I thought I had cleaned all this up, and still I got piles of branches that we're pruning out of here to clean up. A little bit of manioc. We'll probably pull that yucca, or cassava, which is also called manioc. We'll probably pull that up and get it out of this lot within the next month. We had a really good harvest last month and still not finished with it all. So this, even though it's tight, it's shady, the shade is kind of affecting the lemongrass. I have to think about like what's to get out of here. But we've got this one and this other one, Viburnum, Cabo de Hacha, this guy and this guy. So that's a future post and handle crop, or even a cuttings crop. And we can see what, we've got another guava tree there. We can see how we can bring in more light here. Another big guava tree. Here's a citrus. I think that might be an orange. And another nitrogen fixing bush, just a volunteer, puts out all these leaves. This will probably die back, or maybe even eventually die. This is actually quite a big example, the alcaparro chaparro. And all of these, I just kind of break them up and let the seeds go. A lot of the seeds have fallen already. We might take some of these seed pods and sprinkle them in other farms. But once it's in the ecosystem, you see, like this would be putting out a ton of seeds downhill, and we can see this door here is a disconnection, and this one actually goes down a little bit further. But here's a door into Tangara Tres, which needs still a lot of work, so I won't go that way. But we could here see the second contour, and we planted some things. We cleaned this out and planted some things recently, and that goes back into the forest I showed you guys last time. A lot of viburnums, a lot of cabo de hachas, which we're very excited about. Still, this is a newest contour here. I just expanded this, brought in some big bamboos. Brought in some big bamboos. There we go, focus. And kind of a steep slope there up, and of course this goes all the way down, probably 50 feet down to the road, all the way down. And there's still a little bit of old coffee that will come through here, and we'll clean up around the edge. Below us, ooh, some bananas. I can get some corms out of there. And coming back around, we cleaned up. This is a coffee plant, and it's absolutely not dead, but in terrible condition. We really abandoned this area. It's got this parasite all over it, and you know, not dead, but alive, still enough to help us with the contour. We'll probably cut him down, all dry up top, but we've got a nice forest canopy appearing. And for us, the most important part was to start to form the edges and the paths, the labyrinth, through which we can propagate these productive lots, like with the lemongrass, and further down we have a Congo leaf, and we are propagating more medicinal species. And of course, all the other exciting things, firewood fruit, and lots of fun.